have thoughts, but you don't listen anyway. I said, for my whole life, I didn't know if I even really existed. But I do.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Oscar nomination reviews. We're gonna keep going really quickly, and I think from now on, I'm gonna keep them as short as I can, just for my sake of editing, because there's so many to get through, and I want to get to as many of them as I can for you guys. So I'm not gonna try to drag them out as much as I did with the first one, but that's not gonna be hard with this first one, because the first thing we're gonna talk about is 1917. Boy, did this movie deserve Best Picture from the Golden Globes. God, I love this movie so much. I found that even though I'm not big into military stuff, war movies happen to be some of my favorite movies because they just happen to be some of the best. And I think that's because of the group dynamics. And man, this one, it's funny because it's not so much of a group dynamic in this one, but it's so well done. If you haven't seen 1917, I need you to go see this right now. And here's why. The cinematography. Roger Deakins does it again. It's beautiful. Every single shot is actually, I'm sorry. The shot is beautiful because there's like 2 shots in the whole movie. I think it cuts sort of once, like a blackout, but other than that, it's made to look like 1 shot, if you haven't heard that already. Normally, like with Birdman, I could tell where they cut it, a little bit. I had to watch a behind-the-scenes featurette to figure it out, and even then, I am just shocked at how smooth those cuts are that I literally couldn't tell, except for maybe one or two times when they went into darkness where they could have cut. I have no clue. They could have had a 40-minute scene that they did all in one take, and I would have believed it. And they cover a ton of distance, like literally a ton of distance. It's so good. So, and I mean, every single part of this, every single aspect is beautiful, from the fire scenes to the actual war to that one you see in the trailer when he's running. It is just perfect. I love it, and that's how I feel about this entire movie. It's perfect. And the best part is, I believe it stars 2 unknowns, George MacKay and Dean Charles Chapman, which kind of makes me think of Charlie Chaplin, which is kind of cool. But other than that, yeah, I mean, Benedict Cumberbatch is in it for like a second. Colin Firth is in it for like a second. There are all these cameos, but it really just follows the 2 guys on this mission to go save these people from what is inherently a trap. And we just followed them the whole way through, the whole walk through, and it's just so cool. The conversations they have. Actually, there was one part where they were walking through the woods, and it kind of reminded me of the end of Lord of the Rings, Two Towers, when they're having the discussion about, like, will we ever be put into books? It reminded me of that a little bit, which was cool. And the sound design was amazing. I was sitting in the theater up top, and I kid you not, like, obviously I know that there's not a helicopter in the theater. I get that. But it sounded like there was a helicopter flying over me. Like, I literally was in the theater and I was like, it was freaky. Yeah, so I gotta give it up for Sam Mendes for directing this. I mean, and Roger Deakins, they just killed it on this one. And it's one of those films that makes it look so easy to do. Just and I mean, there's like little twists and turns here that you wouldn't expect, but other than that, I mean, the thing I love the most about this movie is that it's straightforward, literally just from here to here. There's no surprises. I mean, there's surprises, but there's no things that complicate the story where you're just like, this doesn't make sense, or that is like, what are they doing with the script? They must have had like 6 revisions. It starts where it's supposed to, and it ends where they get to, and it's just, you gotta watch this movie. Roger Deakins is amazing. All the performances were wonderful. I loved it. It looks beautiful. It was such an experience to watch. Go see 1917. It is a cinematic experience, and I'm giving it a 4 out of 4. All actually some really, really good Oscar-nominated movies this year. Overall, I didn't think that 2019 had the best movies. I mean, it had great ones, but, just as a year for movies, it didn't seem the best. But the ones that came out of it that were good were really good. So, we're going to transition to the next one. And this is, I think, the second one I saw of all the Best Picture nominees. Definitely, I don't know if it's my favorite or not, but it's really up there. And that is Joker. I was not I could go on forever about this one, so I'm really going to try to keep it as short as I can, I swear. But when I first saw the trailer for this movie, I was like, okay, so they're going to give the Joker an origin story. Oh, his name's Arthur Fleck. That has nothing to do with the Joker. And I was like, this just looks like it's going to be like a throwaway, like a Venom type thing. I was wrong. This was so good. And I'll tell you why. It could have just been another comic book movie. It wasn't. They took this opportunity and leveraged it into something bigger. One of my teachers, one of my professors, Matthew Bainbridge, put on Facebook that this may not be the best movie of the year, but it's probably the most important movie of the year. I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, they could, like I said, they could have just made this another comic book movie, and they didn't. They took something that people love already and would go to see no matter what, and they kind of snuck in there a little bit of mental health awareness, actually a lot of it, and it was such an important message that it's the biggest, my biggest thing that I'm extremely passionate about, and I was so excited that they put it in there the way that they did. Like that, it makes the entire movie, honestly. That being said, there are downsides to this movie. Structurally, that's most of it. They have there's two subplots in the middle. You got the beginning where we kind of meet Arthur Fleck. You obviously have the end, which you probably know where that's going, if you haven't seen it. But in the middle, there's two subplots. They don't kind of really connect, and they kind of just alternate between them. And honestly, with this one, it's okay, because really just it's a character study of this one guy and his life. There's not really like so much of a mission. It's kind of just the development of something and how everything that he turns to, there's always a problem. It always knocks him down. But still, it seemed like they were just kind of ping-ponging between these two subplots. One of them didn't really even need to happen. And the other one, I feel like I would have liked a little bit more expansion. I feel like it would have been cool to have a deeper understanding of what that subplot was leading to. Now they're making a sequel, so they might dive into that. I don't know how I feel about them making a sequel, but that's for another time. The structure seemed a little bit uneven, which I kind of felt like that for a lot of the 2019 movies, like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Uncut Gems. While they're great movies, they felt a little uneven. Like they didn't know exactly what they wanted to do. They were like, we have an idea for this. We're not sure where to go with it. Let's just throw some things in there and see what sticks. But I do understand why they have both sides of it, because it kind of shows every aspect of his life, whether it's romance or family or his job or his medications, whatever it is, all of it comes crumbling down. All of it gets the better of him. So they could have done it maybe in a smoother way, but it definitely was surprising. I will say that much. But Joaquin Phoenix killed it. He killed it. I love this man. I wasn't a huge fan of him at first. When I saw him in Gladiator, I was like, oh, okay. But then I saw Her. Absolutely loved that movie. And then this was obviously his best performance. I mean, he really went with it. He made a whole character. I mean, it's a case study of this character. And he made so many decisions that were just really interesting and just tell you so much about this character. And he really just dove into it. So happy for him that he's getting all of the recognition that it deserves, and really happy that a comic book character is getting recognition. I mean, I know it sounds dumb. Again, conversations for another time. And then, of course, I got to acknowledge Todd Phillips for directing this. I'm not sure quite who it was, but whoever shot it. Just some of those images were beautiful and so heart-wrenching, and the emotional weight this movie had. Everything about it, the direction was wonderful. So Todd Phillips just fucking killed it. And also, the composer, I can't remember her name off the top of my head. I will look it up later and put it in the description. I think I want to say it's Hild or something. But anyway, the score, when I first heard it, like you feel that emotional heaviness in the score. It's so good, and I'm really glad that she's been winning for a couple of the awards for composition, because first of all, she deserves it. Second of all, I up until this point, I never realized that I don't know any female composers. So that's really cool. She really nailed it on that one. The one thing I did want to say is that I really hated that people were coming out before the movie. Before the movie even came out, there were whole discussions about it, and I'm like, guys, this isn't even out yet, and people were going nuts over it, saying that it was going to glorify violence, that it does glorify violence. You haven't seen the movie yet. It could have nothing to do with that. It is a very tough topic to talk about. Even I was wondering, a main character who is a white guy and is knocked down in society and turns to violence. It is very hard to talk about that now in our society. But I think that they did it very well. Okay? It was a very hard line to ride. And I was even wondering, how are you going to make an empathetic main character? I think they did it well. Again, it's very hard. People are going to take it different ways. But I think they did it well, because whatever happens, it was incidental. Okay? He didn't try to start anything. He just there's just this snapping moment. And I think that that was okay. You know, that was a good way to go with it, so that it wasn't just this need for attention like a lot of them are. You know, it was just this breaking point, which happens in many movies. It just so happens that this one was very gritty and realistic and showed it in a very grave way. My advice is, don't knock a movie till you see it. Obviously, there's so many that even I do this, that you're like, oh, that looks stupid. Pixar and Disney, they've fooled me time and again. You know, like with Up and Tangled and Frozen, where I was like, that looks really dumb every single time. And then I'm like, oh, wait, no, it was good. So don't knock a movie until you've seen it, okay? Because you don't know what it's going to do. It could be the exact opposite of what you think. And once you've seen the movie, you can hate it all you want because you've seen it. But yeah, structurally, it had some issues, some big issues. But I think there was a bigger picture to this movie than the structure that it gave. And that was that it talked about something that needs to be talked about. It talked about something that isn't talked about a lot, and that is really hurting everybody in our society. And that was really important for it to do. And I'm so glad that they did that. And they took something that could have just been a regular comic book movie and made it bigger. So yeah, so because of that and the just experience watching it, I was so engrossed in it. I'm gonna give Joker a 3.5 out of 4. Leave your comments in the section below. Let me know what you think about both movies, whether you liked them or not. Specifically Joker, I know that's the more controversial one. 1917, most people seem to be on a good side about, but if you didn't like it, let me know. So thank you guys. Stick around for the next few. They're going to be coming out pretty soon. And as always, keep your hopes high, your stress low, and movies right in the middle. Of course, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about that scene. Oh, it was just, it didn't need to be there. But they did that. They did that for us.